Good morning to you all. Thanks for joining us. You're watching our mid-morning edition of Arirang News on this Wednesday, March 18th, live from Seoul. I'm Shin Se-min. Before we dive right in, these are the stories we're following at this hour. Pulling up its sleeves to salvage a struggling economy. The South Korean government is raising the cap on banks' currency forward positions to stabilize the market and will offer a helping hand to airlines, one of the hardest hit sectors by the outbreak. South Korea's largest ever supplementary budget, $9.4 billion is approved by parliament to handle the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic, calling it an economic storm as bad as the Asian financial crisis and the MERS outbreak combined. The country vows to come out swinging. The European Union closes its external borders for the next 30 days for non-essential travel in its latest effort to slow the coronavirus. This as Europe struggles to contain its spread. The South Korean government is working around the clock to come up with measures to minimize the economic fallout from the coronavirus pandemic. Now, just this morning, the nation's finance chief announced measures aimed at calming the volatile market, as well as one of the hardest hit sector, the airlines. For more on this, on the latest, we have our Kim Jae-hee on the line for us. So, Jae-hee, give us a run through of what we know from the economic ministerial meeting this morning.
Yes, Se-min, that economic ministerial meeting, which has now turned into a crisis management meeting, was chaired by the finance minister Hong Nam-gi this Wednesday at the Seoul government complex. There, he announced a set of new measures to help boost the South Korean economy, which has been hit hard by the COVID-19 outbreak. The finance minister said the government will spend an additional $40 million to help the aviation, bus, and shipping industries, on top of what they are already planning to spend. Landing fee reductions scheduled to take effect in June will be implemented immediately. The size of the reductions will be increased to a maximum of 20%. The government will also double the amount of emergency funding to the tourism industry that has been hit directly by the virus outbreak. For the performing arts industry, the government will support the production cost and the admission fee of canceled performances.
And Jae-hee, the government also announced that it is increasing the currency forward position limits imposed on banks. Tell us more.
In a bid to resolve difficulties companies are having getting hold of foreign currencies, the government has decided to raise the limit imposed on banks taking currency forward positions. From Thursday, the limit for the local banks will be expanded from 40% to 50%. The limit for the foreign banks will be increased from 200 to 250%. This announcement comes one day after the won-to-dollar exchange rate rose to the highest level in 10 years, trading at over 1,243 Korean won per dollar. The ministry added the government will be prepared to use detailed response measures at any time under the existing currency contingency plan and will take measures promptly and decisively at the time needed. That is all I have at this hour, but I'll be back with more updates in our later newscast. Back to you, Se-min.
Thank you, our Kim Jae-hee, with those updates. South Korea's Nat'l Assembly has passed a multi-billion-dollar supplementary budget bill aimed at coping with the COVID-19 outbreak. After a marathon debate over the total amount, rival political party lawmakers on late Tuesday night approved the government's initial proposal of $9.4 billion. While the total amount remains the same, lawmakers agreed to redistribute some $2.4 billion from areas indirectly related to COVID-19 and use them to further support areas desperate for aid. Of that $2.4 billion, nearly $840 million will be added to the budget for the hardest hit regions like Daegu and the Gyeongsangbuk-do province areas, and the remaining amount will be added to the budget to support the self-employed and small business owners. South Korea's ruling Democratic Party, the government, and the presidential office has promised its utmost efforts to minimize the economic impact of the coronavirus outbreak. They say it could trigger economic fallout worse than the damage of the Asian financial crisis and the MERS outbreak combined. Meeting at the National Assembly on this Wednesday, the three sides stressed the need to cooperate and use all available means to stabilize the South Korean economy, especially at a time when the entire world is experiencing a new crisis. They also discussed the possibility for a second supplementary budget and ways to enhance international cooperation on managing the pandemic. They also pledged to reinforce the online learning system for students after the new school year was postponed for the third time. Over in Washington, the White House is seeking $1 trillion stimulus package to help the U.S. battle the economic impact caused by the coronavirus pandemic. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said such measures include getting emergency funds in Americans' pockets immediately and deferring tax payments. Our Kim Hyo-sun with the details.
Amid the rapid spread of the coronavirus within the United States, the Trump administration is eyeing a $1 trillion COVID-19 stimulus package. During a White House press briefing Tuesday on the administration's latest efforts to combat the virus, President Trump stressed it's going to be big and bold. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said the aid package could amount to at least $1 trillion, and they have already presented it to Senate Republicans. President Trump again emphasized that the U.S. can claim victory over the virus.
We will win. We will win. And when that victory takes place, our economy is going to go through the roof. It is so pent up. It is so built up. It is so ready to go in an upward direction. But we have to knock out this enemy. This is a really tough enemy, but we have to knock out all of us. That's all of us.
U.S. Secretary of Treasury Steven Mnuchin also explained that emergency funds will be given to Americans soon.
We're looking at sending checks to Americans immediately. And what we've heard from hardworking Americans, many companies have now shut down, whether it's bars or restaurants. Americans need cash now, and the president wants to get cash now. And I mean now, in the next 2 weeks.
He also added the IRS is deferring $300 billion in tax payments by 90 days, penalty-free. In an effort to minimize the financial pain inflicted by COVID-19, the Federal Reserve decided to ensure liquidity in the financial market by reintroducing the so-called commercial paper funding facility. The Fed says it will begin buying commercial paper directly from banks and large corporations to pump money into the real economy. The program was first established in the fall of 2008 at the height of the global financial crisis. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
The global pandemic continues to spread, and as the number of confirmed patients with the coronavirus soars in Europe, the EU has decided not to let external travelers enter the bloc for the next 30 days. Our Kim Bo-kyung with more on that and the latest on the COVID-19 outbreak gripping the world.
As the global pandemic hits Europe hard, members of the European Council have decided to impose an entry ban on travelers from outside the bloc for 30 days to contain the spread of COVID-19. After the teleconference held by EU leaders on COVID-19, the European Council President announced Tuesday a temporary restriction on non-essential travel to the bloc for 30 days, which can be later extended if needed, with Germany welcoming the move.
To limit the spread of the virus globally, we agreed to reinforce our external borders by applying a coordinated temporary restriction of non-essential travel to the EU for a period of 30 days, based on the approach proposed by the Commission.
The first thing is that we all agreed with the suggestion of the Commission regarding the entry ban into Europe, with very few exceptions from countries that neither belong to the EU or EFTA or the UK. It still needs to be put into place by the member states and will be for 30 days. Germany will put it into place immediately.
Such a coordinated response from Europe comes as COVID-19 is spreading fast within the EU. In Italy, the total number of patients as of Tuesday local time surpassed 31,000, with the death toll also topping 2,500, up 16% from the day before. Germany is suffering from increasing number of patients, with over 9,200 confirmed cases, with 24 deaths. Europe is not alone. According to AFP, as of Tuesday, Russia has reported more than 100 cases of virus, but no fatalities yet. To prevent the virus from spreading further, Russia has decided to close its borders to foreigners starting from Wednesday until the first day of May. Accordingly, sports and cultural events have been suspended. Iran's health ministry also said on Tuesday that the death toll in Iran climbed near the 1,000 mark, with the total number of infections there now over 16,000. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The International Olympic Committee says it does not plan any drastic decisions on the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, adding it remains fully committed to the event being staged in 4 months, this despite the global coronavirus outbreak. In a statement Tuesday, the IOC said international sports federations would need to make changes to qualifiers due to the outbreak, but it plans to go ahead with the July to August schedule. The IOC also encouraged all athletes to continue to prepare for the Olympics as best as they can. Many sports competitions have already been called off in different parts of the world, affecting the Olympic qualifiers across well over 30 sports. With the success South Korea has seen so far in fighting the COVID-19 outbreak, the World Health Organization has decided to take part in the South Korean government's research on the deadly virus. The preparation meeting will be held this Wednesday, with 2 WHO experts set to attend. Our Lee Seung-jae with more.
COVID-19 is a new infectious disease that has no vaccine. However, it's currently being treated by looking at the clinical characteristics of patients and sharing experience with other countries who have found success. Many countries have praised the work done by medical staff in South Korea, especially the response taken in Daegu and the Gyeongsangbuk-do province, where the biggest outbreak took place. This is why the World Health Organization has reached out to South Korea to participate in the government's research efforts.
Because COVID-19 shows such clinical features and pathways, South Korea has led research to produce the standard that each country should follow.
So how is the study done? The key is to examine the similar characteristics shown by the South Korean patients. 4 different samples are taken from a patient regularly to obtain the amount and presence of the virus, the symptoms manifested, and how long it took for the virus to be eliminated. It also checks the effectiveness of the antibodies once produced. With the study being led by the National Institute of Health, the first preparatory meeting will be held Wednesday, with 2 officials from the WHO taking part. The government said the research will be led through data, research design, and presentation.
The WHO has requested to participate. As of now, South Korea is in a very important position, and that's why the WHO sent us this request.
The South Korean government says it's planning to produce results that will help with treatment and prevention, so it can be used for guidance and recommendations around the world. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Good morning. It was a rough morning commute because of a mix of dense fog and dust, reducing visibility for drivers. But conditions have improved and it's going to be about 5 to 7 degrees warmer than average for mid-March. Temperatures will hover way above the season norms in most parts of the country. So it's going to rather feel like mid-April for most regions, with highs getting up to the mid to upper teens. Gwangju is forecast to be one of the warmest places at 21 degrees Celsius, and sunnier skies are in store as well for today. But high levels of fine dust in central western regions will also clear by the afternoon. It's going to be relatively cooler tomorrow and Friday, with rain in store for northern inland regions on Thursday. Then Friday marks the spring equinox already, which is the 4th spring term of 6. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
That is our time at this hour on Arirang News, but do join us again for more of the day's headlines coming up at noon Korea time. Thank you for watching and goodbye.